Oh boy. I wonder if this is working. Well, if you hear the cough and you hear the voice, you can be fairly assured that this is me bringing you Tent Talks Tunes. Trademark finger motion, the trademark baggy hooded sweatshirt, the trademark weird glasses, all the better for me to see you with. Oh, yes, 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 yes. I think it's happening. This is a whole new thing. A bold, audacious, new, exciting, cutting edge way of doing Tent Talks tunes. Also, might be a last ditch attempt to figure out a way to do this without resorting to the disgusting Mevo camera software combination, which you heard me bitching, griping, moaning, whinging, and complaining so much about last week on Tent Talks Tunes, to the extent where I actually went and smashed my tripod to bits because I was so frustrated with the software. Yes, I'm sure you remember that. And if you don't, it's of course archived forever here on my Facebook page. It's archived forever on my YouTube channel because that's the way the internet works. Let's see here. You've got a message popping up. I'm doing this on my laptop. Yes, doing this on my laptop. And I'm getting these notifications from the laptop that are distracting me. So you guys have to bear with me while I get these things adjusted. Let's see here. Alan's on board. Mike Lesser's on board. Mr. Gary Forney's on board. So you guys can see me. You can hear me. Yay! That means we are officially in business. And once I get this angle situated just a little bit better, we actually will be in business. So yeah, a lot of excitement going on around here. You can see I'm not in my normal cable TV inspired studio. I'm actually in the much vaunted, world famous record vault of Malcolm Tent, where I keep my personal record collection. I have my jug of Danbury Tap on hand. The reason for this change in setting is that, in case you hadn't heard the momentous news, I'm moving. I am fleeing Connecticut and emigrating to North Carolina. And hold on one second. Another um, notification has popped up. It says that my current keyframe rate is too low. Please update or viewers may experience a lower quality stream. We're going to get rid of that because I'm really not interested in that. This is the spirit of cable TV, and it's not supposed to be super duper hi-fi. I'm not a network. I'm not Disney. I don't want to be Disney. I don't want to be a network. I want to be me. James Pogo's tuned in, says the sound's a little bit lower than usual, but he is tuned in. Alex Thomas, hello. Yeah, this is a whole new thing. As mentioned before, my disgust with the Mevo streaming software has led me to do this. And the fact that I am moving, I'm relocating to North Carolina, has also led me to do this because I thought it just might be fun if you guys sort of virtually dropped in while I packed a few boxes to take with me. And what better way to do it than to actually bring you into the record room where I keep the personal collection. Now, since I've got the laptop, I have the ability to go mobile and show you. You can see those were all full bins yesterday, and these shelves of records were all full. Some of them still are. Some of them are getting emptier by the minute. Pardon my terrible camera work. I'm literally taking a laptop and waving it around. How's that for DIY? You can see I've got some boxes and boxes and boxes of 45s. There are fewer here than there were. Excuse me, everything you see that's an empty gap in an empty shelf was full of records, and now they ain't. So yeah, this is a rare and unique opportunity to do a really super deep dive, literal deep dive into my personal record collection and see exactly what it is that I'm deciding to keep and take with me to North Carolina. And I'm glad to have you guys on board. It's like having company while I hang out here in the home. Dry Core Show wants to know, do I file by genre? The question will be answered with this statement. No, I do not. Genres, man. One man's jazz is another man's, I don't know. My analogy just failed me. Genres, I don't do genres. I go strictly by alphabetical order, as you will see. And even in the alphabetical order department, there is a little bit of wiggle room. In fact, there's an awful lot of wiggle room. But I don't want to go too far afield because we try to keep a certain format here on Tent Talks Tunes, and that is we check the mail, we check the bulletin board, and then we check into the action and do some talking of tunage. The mail, I don't have any mail this week, which is actually kind of good because, as you can see by my virtual bulletin board here, which is a real DIY bulletin board, today's bulletin board is sheets of paper held up in front of the camera. I'm leaving in a day or two to embark on the latest round of anti-scene gig activity. Yes, very exciting. We got not one, not two, not three, but four, count them, four shows coming up in the great cities of Atlanta, Chattanooga, Wilmington, and Raleigh. It's all happening, kids. May 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. 4 nights in a row of Destructo Rock mayhem, anarchy, chaos, and the destruction of the dull and boring. If you want to see more details about these fine gigs, you can go to antiscene.com or check out Antiscene's official Facebook page. We got all kinds of flyers, memes, broadsides, pamphlets, posters, propaganda leaflets, all kinds of stuff posted relating to these upcoming four shows in the great states of Georgia, North Carolina, and Tennessee. Do you want to miss them? No, you do not want to miss them. Take it from the guy who's going to be there on stage doling out the punishment. You do not want to miss this. What kind of comments we got here? Alex Thomas says, got any I want to sell? Of course. I love to sell. Selling is what I'm doing, you know? I am a full-time record dealer, a professional seller of records, which segues beautifully into my next bulletin board item, the Danbury Record and CD Expo. That is this Saturday. Saturday, this is happening, May 4th, at VFW Hall number 149 in Danbury, Connecticut. I will have count them, three tables full of merchandise set up for you to peruse and maybe even buy. Lots of vinyl, cassettes, CDs, TPOS product. Oh, yeah. I'm packing it, baby. I'm packing it heavy and hard and deep and wide. So come on down this Saturday. I've got a whole room full of other dealers with me. So there's going to be tons and tons of stuff to look through. Danbury Record and CD Expo, Saturday, May 4th. Come meet me and we can do some tenting, talking, and tuning in person, which is better than the internet any old day. One more item on the bulletin board, which I'm going to wave in front of the camera. A very rare sighting of Ultra Bunny. Yes, my fabulous all improv space rock noise band, Ultra Bunny. We are playing in Brooklyn, New York with the great Martin Beasy and the presumably great Mustafina and the undoubtedly great No Love Songs. And yes, indeed, that's June 14th. What's the name of the venue? I don't know. Young Ethel's. Yes, Young Ethel's in Brooklyn, June 14th. Ultra Bunny, Martin Beasy, No Love Songs, and Mustafina. I don't know how many Ultra Bunny shows there are going to be after I move to North Carolina. There's precious few now as it is. The last time Ultra Bunny played together on stage was easily 4 years ago. Longer than 4 years ago, probably closer to 5 or 6. It's been a long time since Ultra Bunny has played. Once I joined Anti-Scene and started making the commute to North Carolina to do things with them, Ultra Bunny shows got fewer and further between. And since I'm going to be living in North Carolina, they're going to get way fewer and way further between. So June 14th, Young Ethel's Bethel. Check it out. It ain't going to happen too often after that. It makes me thirsty just thinking about all the rocking and rolling coming up with Anti-Scene and Ultra Bunny. All right, so let's get down to the meat of the matter, shall we? I am hacking boxes. Oh, wait a minute. How can I get to the meat of the matter when I forgot to tell you about this? Anti-Scene Falls Count Everywhere. 14 songs about professional wrestling. This is our newest full-length album. I have copies for sale on CD. Let's talk about it. I also have copies of Profanatica's Crux Simplex album. I helped to write this album. I helped with the arrangements of this album. I do not play on this album, but I did contribute to it. So if you want some of that, I got it. Talk to me direct. Look on my Discogs page, or don't. Use your freedom of choice. All right, enough of this detouring and sidetracking. Let's see what Old Man Tent's got in his personal record collection that he's going to pack into a genuine crate and haul with him down to the great state of North Carolina. This is a crate going to a great state. Very excited about it. See if any more comments have come through here. Apparently not. So here we go. What we got here, and I hope you guys can see this. We're going to do a lot of adjusting of the laptop so we can be, I don't know what the perspective is on this thing. Okay, it actually goes kind of the way you would think it goes. Yeah, guys, if you thought my camera work was bad before, oh, just you wait till we do today's episode. Okay, here we go. This is a shelf. This entire space was full of albums. Now it's empty. So I'm going to start grabbing these albums and putting them in this crate. You might wonder, what are these albums? Well, I'm going to grab the big old handful of them, and you're going to get a clue. This entire handful of albums sits in front of a divider labeled thus. And some of you folks out there know who this guy is and what kind of a divider this is. Anybody who shopped at record stores in the 60s or 70s all the way up to the 80s knows exactly what this record divider is. This was like the universal, couldn't get away from them record divider that you found in just about any chain store and even some independent record stores in this great land of ours. There were probably millions and millions of these dividers in record stores at one time. Now there are precious few, and I ended up with a big, big stack of these from the great Brass City Records in Waterbury. The owner, Walter, he died back in 2015, and I helped to liquidate the inventory in the estate of Brass City, and he had tons of these dividers, and I just love them. They really brought me back to a certain time in a certain place. So I grabbed just about all of them. And you can tell they're from Brass City because, well, the front is kind of generic, but Walter would repurpose them. He did a lot of repurposing. So it used to be Elvis Presley, but then in his own handwriting, the West Coast Experimental Pop Art Ensemble. And once he sold all of those, he changed it to Chris Christopherson. I don't know if you guys can see that, but at one point he did have enough Chris Christopherson records to warrant a divider. And after that, he had room for one more. But I stuck to the original artist, Elvis. And that means a big old stack of records. But they're not all Elvis. No, in fact, very few of them are Elvis. My record collecting is very unique and very weird. If you were to look at my Beatles collection that had a Beatles divider card, what you would find is, I believe, one or two actual Beatles records, and then a huge stack of those sleazy, cheesy Beatles cash-in records that I love so much. And any viewers of Tent Talks Tunes who've been with me for a while know exactly what I'm talking about. Excuse me again. We're talking about the Bugs. We're talking about the Liverpool lads. We're talking about the Liverpools. We're talking about the Beatle Beats. Yes, that's what's in my Beatles section. So you can imagine what's in my Elvis section. Excuse me again, guys. I'm still in the very absolute dregs of this cold I picked up while on tour with Anti-Scene a few weeks ago. And it's at the phase now where my throat is very dry and tickly, so please bear with me. I was definitely in worse shape last week, as you may remember. I know it's very rude to cough at you, but sometimes a tent talks tuners has got to do what a tent talks tuners has got to do. What kind of comments we got here? Alex wants to know if I have any Pantera originals. No, I do not. Sorry. Sold all those a long time ago. Although the original Pantera hair metal vinyl, I had a bunch of those. I think I had all four of them at one time or another. That's the only Pantera I will listen to. I love the old, completely hairy, satiny, shiny, glistening Pantera featuring Diamond Daryl, Rex Rocca, and whoever that original singer was before Phil Anselmo. Love that stuff. But yeah, don't got them no more. Sorry. What other comments do we have here? Tom Littleton from cool. Yep, right on. Brian Russell says the Gnats, his new favorite garage band. Yes, we got the Gnats, the Spiders, the Earwigs, the Slugs. Anybody who could put together a band or a bunch of faceless, nameless session musicians and cash in on a trend did so with the Beatles, as I've talked about a lot. But with Elvis, it's not really sleazy, cheesy cash ins, it's more about the impersonators. Yes. The vast majority of the records that I have in my Elvis section that I'm putting into the crate right now are Elvis impersonators. You got Emil Nargi, who was from Connecticut. And there's a court reporter's rendition of Emil Nargi on the back of that one. So yeah, we got Emil Nargi. We got the entire album of Elvis impersonators. Who's this guy? We got Elvis Wade. There's Elvis Wade. He's going to North Carolina with me. Here's an album by the Jordanaires, his one-time backup group. You don't see them anywhere on the cover, but you do see Elvis. So Jordanaires are going with me. Here's a tribute to Elvis by, well, it's not actually by anybody. There's no artist at all. Maybe it's the Golden Ring. I don't know. Maybe Golden Ring is the label. I'm not really sure. But when it's that generic and that cheap, I'm all over it. I'm a fan. I love this kind of stuff. A Pickwick Elvis record by Big Ross and the Memphis Sound. This one's actually very competently performed and played, but it's got those awesome Pickwick graphics on the back. They sliced that guitar right in half and put some liner notes in the middle, made a sandwich out of it. Love this stuff. I would like to know who the graphics design genius was at Pickwick Records who came up with stuff like that. Absolutely brilliant. See, this one's actually not bad. This is Merle Haggard doing his tribute to Elvis. Nothing wrong with Merle. See this guy all over the place, Rodney McDowell. He wrote one song in tribute to Elvis, The King Is Gone, and was able to milk an entire album out of it. J.D. Sumner and the Stamps, another one of Elvis's backing bands. They're presenting their memories of Elvis. Fuck the Jordanaires. Those are the Stamps. Here we go. Live, exploding from the World Friendship Shell. I don't know what even that is. Exploding from the World Friendship Shell is Danny Van and Memories. And there's Danny Van. Looks like Danny Van hadn't slept in a few days, but that won't stop him from rocking and rolling. There's another compilation, a picture disc to Elvis, The Love Still Burning. Who's on this one? This has got songs like I Remember Elvis Presley by Danny Mirror, What Will We Do Without You by Bobby Fischer, Goodbye King of Rock and Roll by Leon Everett, Candy Bars for Elvis by Jim Whittington. You know, that's what helped kill him. You shouldn't be singing songs like that. That's kind of rude. Ah, The King on Long Play. Ooh, remember, everybody remember Stars on Long Play? Well, here's The King on Long Play by Greg the King Peters. I think you guys catch the drift of where I'm going. These are all, almost all Elvis tribute records, and they are all going in a crate to North Carolina. Now, here's a really interesting one. Brian Russell, who is watching this right now, said that Orion is Elvis. And that's according to something that he heard from a person who knows a person that said he knows. You know, I believe it. No one ever denied that Orion was Elvis. Nobody was able to disprove it. I mean, Orion himself was kind of cagey about it, but you know, he was such a shy guy. This album here, The King's Music, which is a double LP of Elvis Presley songs. The King's Music says right there on the back, 28 greatest hits, and you know, the song titles and a crown. No artist name whatsoever. There is no artist information at all, except if you look very, very carefully on the inside cover, in a corner there, it says the artist is the Thunderbird Singers. Well, guess what? The Thunderbird Singers is Orion. Orion does the vocals on this album. Why they decided to call them the Thunderbird Singers, I don't know. But Orion on this album for sure is Elvis. So for all you Orion completists out there, you need this one. You've got to have this one. Sorry, not for sale. I'm putting it back in the protective sleeve. And it is going into the crate to North Carolina with me. Now, of course, I do have a few Elvis records. A few. I actually got quite a few. I'm looking at it here. You know, but as usual, the Elvis records I do have in my collection are not your orthodox regular Elvis records. We have this vintage bootleg LP of the Viva Las Vegas soundtrack, which for the longest time had never been commercially released. Great, great cover art of Elvis and Anne Margaret. I might be willing to part with this one. A really super deluxe package of Elvis's 1961 Hawaiian concert. The fidelity on this thing is god awful, but the performance is red hot. This was the last live show he did for 7 years before entering the wilderness of Hollywood. And this is just a really great package. I might be willing to part with this one too. Of course, I had to have my copy of Having Fun with Elvis on Stage, which you know is a talking album only. In my own descriptor, no music, mumbling only. Never mind the price tag. I'm keeping this one. Sorry, guys. Burning Love, though, man, you want to talk about one of the greatest songs ever written? Forget it. This, God, there are some love songs that don't make me vomit. That's one of them. So that's a keeper. Here's an obscure fan-made bootleg compilation LP. I'm keeping that one. Elvis Girl Happy. This features Do the Clam, another one of the greatest Elvis songs of all time, but for a completely different reason. Elvis Girl Happy featuring Do the Clam. Do the Clam was written by Ed Wood's girlfriend. True fact. And a few more of that ilk, and of course, one that I will never, ever, ever part with. You want to know what a collector I am and how nuts I am about Elvis Arcana? Not one, not two, but three different pressings of Elvis's greatest shit. We all know about Elvis's greatest hits and the great music he made, but people need to pay more attention to that truly god awful, lousy music he made, almost all of which came from his soundtrack albums. This has got, oh man, the aforementioned Do the Clam, Queenie Wahini's Papaya, Song of the Shrimp, Ito Eats, Fort Lauderdale Chamber of Commerce, Dominic the Impotent Bull. I can't make this stuff up. The first time I saw this record, I thought it had to have been a put on, you know. people, like maybe somebody recorded a fake Elvis record and made a fake package and just made up these ridiculous song titles. But no, it's actually Elvis. That's Elvis himself doing a "He's Your Uncle, Not Your Dad," and the bullfighter was a lady. No room to rumba in a sports car. You can see why I would want to keep this in the permanent collection and never part with it. All three versions of it. Oh, see, Brian Russell knows what I'm talking about. There's no room to rumba in a sports car. There's no room to do what the beat tells you to without throwing your spine out of whack. Awesome song. I should cover that one myself. All right, that's E. Now we're going into the end of E and into F. And the next divider card, which is one of bands I'm very fond of, unrepentantly, Fleetwood Mac. But these are not all Fleetwood Mac records. This is just the alphabet going up to Fleetwood Mac. James Cave says, "Did you ever go to the night of 100 Elvises in Baltimore?" No, never heard of it. But that sounds like something I need to partake in. My. This is the record I've talked about on Tent Talks Tunes. The End, Introspection, great English freak beat album from 1967 produced by Bill Wyman. Got one of the most awesome songs of British psychedelia ever called Shades of Orange. If you like that style of British psych, check this out. That's a keeper. Clintonzilla is in the house. Hello, Clintonzilla. Now, we all know about The Who. We all know about Pete Townsend. Blah, blah, blah. John Entwistle, guys. My 3 John Entwistle albums are all going with me to North Carolina. Smash Your Head Against the Wall, Rigor Mortis sets in, and Too Late the Hero. You want to talk about dark, dark humor with an extensively, exquisitely, almost exclusively British bent to it? John Entwistle. You can have all the Pete Townsend you want. John Entwistle's my man. The back cover of Too Late the Hero alone kind of sets the tone. You can see where this guy is coming from, and I like where he's coming from. So where he's coming from is going to where I'm going. Into the crate it goes. What's this? Jerky Rhythm. Jerky Rhythm by the Erotic Drum Band. That's a keeper. Senator Sam Irvin doing a really great spoken word version of Bridge Over Troubled Water. Senator Sam is from Morganton, North Carolina, which is the general vicinity that I intend to be moving in. So I'll be near Senator Sam's home. Great non-singer, Senator Sam Irvin. Let's see here. Alex Thomas says I should write a book. You know, Alex, I should, but I'm probably not gonna because I'm just too damn lazy. Here's something that's cool. Tucked inside of my Esquivel record, and if you guys are all about space age bachelor pad music, you need just an Esquivel. But tucked in the Esquivel record is the genuine autographed program from the River to River Festival. I got to see Rocky Erickson, the great Rocky Erickson, play there in 2007, and he autographed it for me. Yes, he autographed. Oh wait, he autographed it for me. There you go. There's the autograph. Somehow that's quite appropriate. Rocky, wherever you are, God bless you. Thank you for that. All right. That gets very carefully put in the crate. Chad Everett, the star of, God, what medical drama show was he the star of when I was a kid? In the 1970s, primetime hospital drama, the doctors, I forget what it was. Why do I have this record? Because it's another one of those albums made by a TV celebrity who cannot sing worth peas. This guy is just about the worst singer who ever lived. He's easily as bad as Leonard Nimoy, quite a bit worse than William Shatner. And as you can see, he's got a bad case of macho going on. And not only that, he's all strung out. I believe it. Listening to the vocal performances on this one, he certainly was strung out on something. And you'll notice my program notes, if you could read my chicken scratch, I noted that regarding the songs on this record, they're all bad, especially side A, tracks 3 and 4, side B, tracks 2 and 3. So if you really want to know what the worst of the Chad Everett songs are, I just told you. Here's something. Mike Lesser's watching. He knows what this one's all about. F, the most obnoxious bunch of bratty twits who ever infested the South Florida punk scene. But you know what? It's a damn good record. This is the original copy I bought in 1984. I'm keeping it. And this is the last of, I used to have many, many fall records. I have only this one now. You want to talk about another really fantastic, underrated English pop, not pop, rock band, an English rock music band who totally kicks butt, who not enough people know about? Family. I think that their biggest claim to fame was opening for the Stones at their Hyde Park concert in 1969, along with King Crimson, the Battered Ornaments, and a couple of others. But Family really kicked butt. Very, very tasty English rock. If you like stuff like Tucky Buzzard or Pato, Family would probably be right up your alley. Sensational Alex Harvey Band, really, really good stuff. And not very known at all. So you can typically find their stuff pretty cheap. But not for me because I'm keeping it all. Man, I haven't even filled this crate up yet. This is going to be a long, long process. Here's one for you, the Fibonacci's. Fibonacci's, Los Angeles, mid to late 80s. I don't think they ever broke out of LA, but man, very intelligent, very well done, very well written. These guys were friends of Devo when Devo were living in, actually they still are, but when Devo were going into their cocoon siesta state in the mid 80s, they either worked with or championed bands, and the Fibonacci's was one of them. And so I got this record because of it, and it's a really good record in its own right. It's how do you describe it? Kind of foreign sounding, kind of exotic, very tongue in cheek, very smart, very knowing. The song Tumor, especially, is a good one. And it's produced by Craig Leon, the guy who produced the first Ramones album. How cool is that? Boy, you guys get to hear me cough. What an awesome appetizing sound that is, right? Jeez. What else we got here? Fingerprints, some fairly tasty new wave type stuff from the early 80s. The Reverend Howard Finster got a couple of Howard Finster albums. The Man of Visions from Worlds Beyond the Light of the Sun. Howard Finster was legit. Howard Finster was the real deal. He was a born again Christian Southern Baptist preacher who, at the same time, traveled through outer space and had visions of all the worlds that he went to and shared them with those of us who are still marooned on Earth via his beautiful paintings. Seen here, here's one on a Talking Heads album cover. And here's another one of his typical paintings on a compilation album. Howard Finster's stuff was just fantastic. Fantastic. I was very, very lucky to have gotten to visit the Rev a few times when he was still on planet Earth. He was a beautiful man. His Paradise Gardens in Somerville, Georgia was a beautiful place. And so I have these albums as a beautiful memento of that time. Tom Littleton says that John Wetton, okay, John Wetton from King Crimson, UK and Asia was in Family. I didn't know about that. Very interesting. Excuse me. Mike Lesser says that he went through Howard's garden and house in Georgia. Mike Lesser, when were you there? I have not been to Paradise Garden since 1995, and I heard that the state of Georgia took it over and is running it as kind of like a tourist attraction now. Is that true? Please let us know. Ooh, Alex Thomas says he's found a honey hole of records. Okay, I'll take a look for that. Thank you for the tip. Thank you. Here's some wild abrasive stuff. The Fire Engines from Scotland. Classic EP called Get Up and Use Me. Candy Skin is another one of theirs. They basically take all the bass out of their sound. It's like these shrieking, shrill, harsh, scratching, scraping guitars played at a frantic pace. Post punk at its most abrasive. I'm keeping that one. Fire Hose, sometimes always. Man, man. That's all I have to say about it. And here's your Fleetwood Mac. We got some Fleetwood Mac records. Here's the thing about my Fleetwood Mac collection. You want to know what Fleetwood Mac records I have? I have 4 Fleetwood Mac records, and every one of them is from the Bob Welch era of the band. You've got Bare Trees, you got Penguin, you got Mystery to Me, and you got Heroes Are Hard to Find. Excuse me. I'm lacking Future Games on vinyl. And the reason for that is that I love that album so much that whenever I'm out in the field selling records, I it's kind of like my job to turn people onto that album. So I never keep a copy for myself. I always try to find a good home for copies of Future Games by Fleetwood Mac. Absolutely love that album. And all these others from the Bob Welch era are really cool as well. The only kind of stinker being Penguin. Penguin is not the greatest album in the world. It's got a couple of good songs on it, but they were really kind of aimless and directionless on that one. But I'm going to keep it because it's the Bob Welch era of Fleetwood Mac, and I love it. Bare Trees is a damn good record. It's got the original version of Sentimental Lady on it. Child of Mine's a great tune. The Ghost. Yeah. Spare Me a Little by Christine McVie. Dude. Tom says he saw Fire Hose back in the day. Did not Fire Hose kick ass? Were they not great? Any chance to see Mike Watt and George Hurley playing live was an opportunity that had to be taken. And all props to Ed from Ohio, too, man. He had some literal and figuratively big shoes to fill, and it took a lot of chutzpah to join what was basically the Minutemen and replace the figurehead of that band. And there's an awesome song called Brave Captain on the first Firehose album, which is about that situation. So, yes, salute to Ed and Mike and George Firehose. All right, what else have we got here? An album by Flight. I have no idea what this is, but I know why I kept it though, because of that back cover. Look at that back cover art. Tell me, man, those guys are definitely either about to embark or about to recover, or maybe are themselves some kind of wild, wacky outer space flight. And there it is. It's on Capitol. It's from the 70s. And it says that track 4 is kind of like King Crimson. All right. It's a bad sign when you fish a record out of your personal collection and don't remember anything about why you had it. But too late now. It's going in the crate. I'll have to revisit it when I get to North Carolina. Flipper. Flipper. Flipper, like anybody needs an explanation on Flipper. Thank you very much. Haha, another absolute personal favorite of mine. Flo and Eddie. 1, 2, 3, 4 Flo and Eddie records. Flo and Eddie were, and maybe even still are, brilliant. To use some of the criteria that I used earlier, very smart, very intelligent, and damn good. Like these guys know how to write pop music. They know how to write, produce, and play pop music, but with that eccentric left field twist that prevented them from ever having a big hit record because they were just too abnormal to get big. But damn, their stuff is good. Brian says he needs a crayon Sex Bomb 7-inch by Flipper. Man, I had half a dozen of those at one time. They were really common once. The red vinyl Flipper Sex Bomb 7-inchers with the hand-drawn covers. think I still have one or two. I don't know. I love flippers so much I ain't parting with them. Flying lizards. Flying lizards, anybody? Yes. David Cunningham, aka the Flying Lizards. This is genuine avant-garde new wave. I mean, you describe it as new wave just because it came out during the height of new wave, but it was a weird ass record. Bizarre combination of dub, for lack of a term, new wave, the sounds of clanging and banging, weird female vocals, weird male vocals. I cannot describe the Flying Lizards, but God, this is an awesome record. It's a keeper. And going from the sublime to the ridiculous, we go from the Flying Lizards to Foghat Live. Yeah, Foghat, baby. Woo! I bought this record when I was in the 8th grade, and I got to admit, I still love its bombast. This is British rock music at its most bombastic. If bands like Family and Pato and The End were very smart and very English and somewhat subtle, Foghat, English, and none of the rest. I love it. Willfully dumb, willfully awesome. That's a keeper. So as you can see, my personal record collection is not chock full of rarities. It's just chock full of stuff I like. Quite a bit of it that no one else in the world would even care about in the slightest bit. How about the folk swingers doing a very bad sitar-driven generic raga rock album? Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. Oh yeah. Terrible. Here's one that's even worse. Fonzie's Favorites. Yes, Fonzie Favorites, designed to cash in at the height of Fonzie Mania. It's basically a collection of oldies, with the exception of the last song on side one, which is the Fonzie Impressionist track. Yes, some very, very low paid, low rent, union scale Hollywood actor doing his best, which actually is worst impressions of the Fonz. Man, it's terrible. And they're actually very helpful on the liner notes to say the impressionist track includes a cool nerd and sit on it. Just so you knew. And there it is on vinyl. And yeah, I never cracked this one open. Really no need to because I've got that impressionist track etched on my brain. I also have it on 8-track cartridge. So, the vinyl's just kind of superfluous. No one's ever going to buy it anyway. So, in the crate it goes. Ah, here's a good one. The Fools. This was a band from Boston. I guess they were a real band. And they had an album or two out on EMI America. Psycho Chicken was the closest thing that they had to a hit. And they just sort of came and went. This is actually really good guitar driven, kind of like the Romantics, kind of like, oh God, I mean, try to remember the name of all those guitar driven skinny tie bands from back then. It's kind of in that same ilk, but better. And I don't know if their studio albums are any good, but the live album, really good. Spent the Rent is the big hit on this one for me. I used to play this a lot when I was doing radio. And kind of the same deal. Nobody knows who these guys are. Nobody cares, but I love the record. It's going with Sweden, North Carolina. Got some more F's here. Ah, here's one. Here's a good one. I've talked about this guy a lot. This was a huge turntable hit back in the days of Trash American style. Brute Force, Confections of Love. Bruce Wingate, my employee at the time, discovered this album and played it in the store, and it became an earworm for anybody and everybody who ever heard any part of it. And many years later, I got the pleasure and the privilege of actually meeting Brute Force and playing a few shows with him. He signed my album. Very happy about that. Super cool guy, genuine creative genius. He wrote dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of pop songs from many, many artists all over the place over the years, including several hits. But his solo stuff is eccentric to say the least, and also really well done. Very skillful, very well crafted. Brute Force, one of my favorite weirdos ever. Here we go. This is a group called Freedom Suite. This is one of those show bands that used to be really huge in the 70s. They would actually tour all over the country playing cover songs. And as you can see, this is Freedom Suite right there. They look pretty typical. Most touring show bands looked a lot like that. They'd play at Holiday Inns and Knights of Columbus functions and, weddings and county fairs and stuff like that. I don't know if there are bands around who still do that. But, what's on here? Life by Sly Stone, The Way We Were, I Believe in Music, I Believe in Music, I Believe in Love, Time in a Bottle, Mr. Bojangles, and of course the obligatory Freedom Suite Dedication to America medley. You could totally make a living traveling all over the country playing Holiday Inns, county fairs, and VFW functions playing stuff like that. You know what? Go for it, guys. If you can do it, do it. If I thought I would enjoy a gig like that, I'd probably do it myself. But I don't think I would. Here's a hardcore classic for you. I had to part with the original 7-inch many, many years ago, but I kept the 10-inch reissue, The Freeze, Guilty Face, Boston hardcore. It really, really doesn't get any better than The Freeze for Boston hardcore. This is Boston, Not LA was a seminal album for me back in the 80s, along with Welcome to 1984, obviously the Dead Kennedys, Black Flag, and the Freeze were one of my very favorite bands on Boston, Not LA. So this is a keeper. I let the original 7-inch go, but I ain't letting the 10-inch reissue go. Tasty green vinyl. Keeper. The Frost, featuring the great Dick Wagner from Detroit. Dick Wagner worked with Alice Cooper. He worked with various early versions of Grand Funk when they were still Terry Knight and the Pack. The Frost was one of his bands. He wrote and produced for all these people. And it's so weird because his work with these other artists is fantastic. But the Frost don't quite hit the mark. I mean, there is good stuff. There is definitely good stuff. But it just doesn't really have the kapow that you would expect from a high octane Detroit. Maybe that's the thing. You're expecting high octane Detroit rock and roll, but it's not high octane Detroit rock and roll. It's just good American rock music. So maybe that's the key. You sort of have to redefine your expectations when you play this album by The Frost. But you can tell I like it enough. It's in my personal collection. It's going with me. Boom. Also from Detroit, The Frustrations. Don't know if they're still around, but I played a few shows with these guys within the last 10 years or so. They totally rocked. They played Connecticut a couple of times. Loved them. Real good stuff. Very tasty rock and roll. Tom Littleton wants to know if I am concerned about how I will be moving all that vinyl during the warmer months. You know what? Not a big deal. When the vinyl is stacked vertically like this and packed tight in the crates, it should be fine. Keep it out of direct sunlight. Keep them packed nice and tight, and they should be good. But also, just to be safe, when I pack my crates, I always put 1 or 2 records that I don't care about in the slightest bit on the front and the back as buffers. This one might be a buffer. Tony Fry, One Night Lover. Well, maybe there's a reason for that. I don't know. As you can see, he has loved her, and now he's going to leave her. What a cad. I love these independent rock records. Where's this guy from, anyway? Yonkers! The dude's from Yonkers, New York. He's from Yonkers. So you can tell he means business. He's a lover and a leaver. He's from Yonkers. And this is his record. This is his record, and I'm keeping it. It went from Yonkers to Danbury, and now it's going to North Carolina, just like that. Scott Forbes, you ever heard of this guy? You've been to Yonkers once or twice. What can you tell me about this? I demand an answer. Fun Boy 3. Got a couple of Fun Boy 3 records. This was the vocal front line of the Specials. And then when the Specials broke up, they created their own band. And you would think, well, three vocalists, what are they going to do? They made some very dark, foreboding, spooky, uh, downbeat post new wave. This stuff is downright creepy and not at all what you would expect from three guys from the Specials. And the Specials are pretty heavy too. They didn't sing about fun, happy, jolly, la 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 stuff. Specials were pretty dark and grim in their own right. And these guys just get downright morbid. I love these two records. This is good stuff. Their second full length album too is also great. I just don't have that one. Boy, this crate's almost full. Do you think I can fit this funeral party record in there? Hmm? Let's try it. Another one that I remember very little about. It says here reference Bauhaus. Okay, it's a goth record. And I love me some goth. I've got a goth streak about 2 miles wide in my personality. I'm all about the goth. Crate's getting tight. And we're down to, oh man, okay, this is actually perfect. This one crate's going to keep, this one crate is going to have all of my F's in it, from Elvis to the end of the F section. And I have two final F records to stick in the crate, and they're both real corkers. First one, Fur Bible. Man, this album is awesome. So actually a 12-inch single. This is very much in reference to the Fun Boy 3, in which a couple of members of the parent group split off and made their own noise. Excuse me, guys, got that dry throat again. You're so lucky to get to watch me and hear me cough. Yes, Fur Bible were three members of a band who were known for the prodigious writing talents of the fourth member of the band. So the question is, what do the three non-writers do? Well, they do an excellent, excellent sort of goth 12-inch single. Only 3 songs. That's all they ever released. And I do have a bootleg cassette of like one of the very few live performances they ever did that has like maybe 2 or 3 other songs that didn't make it onto the album or 12-inch. It's a shame they never did a full-length album because they could have been really good. But who are they? Maybe those names mean something to you. Kid Congo, Patricia Morrison, Desperate, and Murray Mitchell was a ringer, but Desperate, Patricia Morrison, and Kid Congo, who were 3/4 of the Gun Club, who split very acrimoniously after their 1984 European tour. In fact, Terry Graham had been the drummer on that tour, and he quit before the tour was even over. And they got that guy Desperate to fill in, and then he and Kid and Patricia all quit the Gun Club and left poor old Jeffrey Lee Pierce high and dry, which is probably something he actually enjoyed in a really perverse manner. That was the penultimate F record in my collection. I don't mean the band, I mean the letter. The ultimate F record in my collection. I've talked about this one before, and you better believe this one's coming to North Carolina with me. Fur. Oh my God. Fur. Yes, my love, my deep abiding love for the sleazy, cheesy cash in. It does go beyond the Beatles. It also goes to really, really horrific attempts to cash in on Kiss Mania. This actually is about the only record I've ever seen that attempts to cash in on the Kiss craze. It came out in 1977 at the height of Kiss frenzyism. It's got basically what looks like four Peter Chris's in a kind of really spazzed out destroyer sort of pose. And yeah, it's on the Magna Glide label from Great Neck, New York. It's a music machine production produced by Castanets and Cats, the inventors of bubblegum music. So even in 1977, they were still plying their craft. But wait, the story gets even deeper and more twisted and more Byzantine. For a long time, in the late 60s and early 70s, Castanets and Cats had in their employee three songwriters and producers and musicians named Graham Goldman, Lol Cream, and Kevin Godley. And those guys cranked out albums and albums and albums worth of just generic rock music that, in the greatest tradition of cash in records, sounded basically like whatever was on the charts at the moment, which the producers, Castanets and Cats, would then repackage in an effort to cash in on what was on the charts at the moment. And in this case, it was Kiss. But the tracks that they dredged up were from years prior to Kiss. And the principal musicians, as I mentioned before, Eric Stewart, Lol Cream, Kevin Godley, and Graham Gouldman, who, with the addition of Eric Stewart, later became, who's going to guess? James Pogo knows. Come on, James, get on it. We got Lol Cream, you got Kevin Godley, you got Graham Gouldman. As Fur, they added Eric Stewart, and Scott Forbes knows this. Come on, Scott, give us the answer. People need to know. People need to know. James Pogo, as I guessed, 10cc. Tom Littleton knows it, 10cc. Yep. Mike Lesser, 10cc. If you guys are as wacky about 10cc as I am, and as much of a musical spelunker and archaeologist as I am, you got to find the Fur record. This record is so ridiculously rare. It's the only copy I've ever seen of it. And even though it was pressed in Great Neck, New York, a former worker of mine found it at a record shop in England back in the 1990s and came back with it. She only bought it because it looked so ridiculous. And I, of course, said, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I listened to it, and it's, certainly bad enough. But then when I listened to it carefully, I was like, my God, that sounds a lot like 10cc. And sure enough, there you go. There you go. And there you go, right before your eyes, right before your ears, I have officially packed full one crate of albums. There it is, guys. One full crate. And it's going with me to North Carolina. So thanks, guys. Thank you for visiting with me while I did that. I've still got a lot more to pack, but the rest will probably go a lot more quickly because I'm just going to do it in an efficient and quick manner because I won't have guests then. It's all good, guys. Friendly reminders before I sign off. This is sort of the denouement here. Ultra Bunny, Martin BC, Mustafina, No Love Songs. My band, Ultra Bunny, June 14th in Brooklyn at Young Ethel's. Ultra Bunny does not play out very much. And once I move to North Carolina, we probably will be playing not much at all. Like, at all. So get some Ultra Bunny while you can. I'm not saying we're breaking up or anything, but opportunities to see us will be fewer and further between from here on out. Danbury Record and CD Expo, this Saturday, May 4th. I will be set up with 3 tables full of records, tapes, CDs, and TPOS label swag. Danbury Record CD Expo, May 4th, VFW Hall 149 in Danbury. And of course, the upcoming run of shows with Anti-Scene, May 8th 9th, 10th, and 11th, Atlanta, Chattanooga, Wilmington, and Raleigh. Come see us to get you some Destructo rock because you need it and we need to dish it out. And of course, two albums I'm on right now that I have in stock and ready to go: Anti-Scene Falls Count Everywhere and Profanatica Crux Simplex. Brand new, factory sealed. Some people want me to sign them. I'll sign them, no problem. Anti-Scene, 14 songs about wrestling. More of what we got that you need. So yeah, that's it for now, kids. Once again, I'm going to be on the road next week with Anti-Scene, so I will not be doing Tent Talks tunes. I think I'll be back the week afterwards. Not sure. We'll just play it by ear as we always do. So once again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out with me and giving me a chance to yap and yammer and yip at you and see what you guys have to say. I'll be checking your comments later after I sign off. And as for now, I just got to go. I got to pack some more boxes. So until we meet again, this is Malcolm Tent saying so long from the Nutmeg State.